To me, Riley Green looks plenty comfortable in a corner. He's obviously played there before, some in the minors and some in spring training. I think I've said for a long time, probably best suited there long term. He was like an average center fielder, in my opinion, who obviously had a flair for great plays, but in terms of the amount of ground he covered, probably about average. I think he has the capability to be a plus corner outfielder, like Gold Glove level in the corners potentially. So he's looked good, he's looked easy. I think the question of left versus right is interesting. Probably depends a little bit on the ballpark, probably depends a little bit on who else is a part of your outfield. If Kerry Carpenter is playing outfield long term and you're in Fenway, I'm going to put Riley Green in that big right field, and I'm going to put Kerry Carpenter in left. Riley's arm to me has never stood out as like plus, so that tends to have me think that he's probably a little bit more of a left fielder. Maybe you get a guy with an absolute cannon and right someday. But if I've learned anything from AJ Hinch and his management style, it's that a lot of this comes down to factors beyond, the simple like, oh, who has the stronger arm. A lot of it's going to be about ballpark. Anecdotally, I think right fields tend to be a little bit bigger, more spacious, and Riley does cover ground pretty well. So especially given the current roster, I think that's why he's going to be spending more time in right. Mentioned last week, they wanted to get Carpenter some more looks in left, just so he's comfortable there. So we're already seeing some of this come together, and it's probably going to be a little fluid depending on the makeup of the roster going forward.
And by the way, I'm okay with that. I'm
Or
okay.
if you've learned anything, none of these guys are ever going to have like one home. This is not how we operate. Riley's probably going to play left and right for the remainder of time that AJ Hinch is the manager. And center too. AJ also, we talked about this, but AJ made clear like Riley's days in center aren't over. Maybe that's more if like Parker's getting a day off or whatever, or if Parker doesn't hit long term. I do believe we will see Riley Green start in center field again before all is said and done here.
It's a great transition because you wrote about Kerry Carpenter this week on The Athletic. If you're an Athletic subscriber, you can read that. But I have to say, be honest with me, Cody. Be honest with our listeners. Be honest to your readers. Did you only write about Kerry Carpenter because the great editors at The Athletic decided to dog him with the photograph on the how mediocre or bad or crappy or whatever you want to say about the AL Central, him misplaying a ball in right field. I will say on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it, at Kenner_Steckley, at Cody
AP
Saban.
style is X, formerly known as Twitter.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. I like that. I thought about teasing you, but I didn't want people to think that I was actually like, because people think that you choose the photo or you write the headline or
No,
whatever.
I
So
didn't
like,
choose the photo. There were a couple comments. Oh, whoever chose this picture of Kerry Bonds. Kerry Carpenter is like beloved by Tigers fans right now. Everyone is about Kerry Carpenter. So if you want to know why I wrote about Kerry Carpenter, that was the main reason. And I did have an unnamed editor at The Athletic text me and be like, I was messing around on Baseball Reference and I came across Kerry Carpenter's page somehow, and I asked myself, how did I not know that this guy exists? So that's also a reason I wrote about Kerry Carpenter. It's just people, on a somewhat of a national scale, need to at least know his name right now. He is obviously playing well, and as we've talked about in the past couple of weeks, played himself into a real role for the future here.
so Lions fans will get this analogy really well, I think. The Kerry Carpenter thing reminds me of Joik Bell. So Joik Bell, running back, undrafted,
Deep
Wayne
cut.
State, kind of had to get his footing in the NFL. He gets his
Yeah.
shot with the hometown team, and then he signs like what was for a guy of his stature like a good contract extension. It wasn't anything like crazy or whatever. And at his press conference, he said, "It's time to stop talking about Joik Bell, the former uh security guard or attendant of Ford Field or whatever his position was. Now it's Joik Bell, the football player, the Detroit Lion. It wasn't a feel good story anymore. It was about moving forward. Like, that's in the past. Now we move forward." That's kind of how I feel about Kerry Carpenter. Like I kind of feel it's not that I don't like take pride for him in the fact that he's made this career up to this point, as miraculous as it is. But I think we've kind of moved past the, oh, isn't this cool? The 19th round pick, hit a couple bombs. Like, I think we kind of have to bury that a little bit. And now it's about what could he possibly be? Like, and there's something, it's funny. We talked about defensive positioning and versatility and no one has a home and all that stuff. And in your story, there was a quote from AJ Hinch. And I love AJ Hinch quotes. I love AJ Hinch quotes. When he says something with two meanings. It's like this meaning and then the meaning beyond it. He
Always.
said, he said, in regards to Carey, we don't want to have an everyday DH all the time. There's a couple things there that made me think, okay, so for the first time next season, AJ Hinch is looking forward to not having to put a guy who can only DH in his lineup. And obviously that's a Miguel Cabrera thing. Not to say he's digging at Miguel Cabrera, but I think the way he thinks
Oh,
baseball,
we know AJ loves to tinker, free up the DH spot
yeah,
even one more way for AJ Hinch to tinker with the lineup. It's probably going to be fascinating to see who's DHing today. It's going to be like it's going to be someone different every day.
yeah, he's probably
It's
gonna
going to be fun.
laugh. He'll have Zach
Oh,
Short
it'll be a
DH a
joke.
day. Like, like he's gonna have some fun with it. But Carpenter versatility, getting him on defense, you had the defensive numbers in there. The weird thing about Carpenter is, and maybe this kind of parallels Spencer Torkelson a little bit, who I also want to talk about defensively, is that there's some, I don't want to say spectacular, but there's some pretty nice plays that are had in the field by Kerry Carpenter. And then it's like, and then sometimes I flash back to Christian Stewart. And it's hard for me because Christian Stewart didn't have the flash plays, but it's hard
I
for,
think you asked me a while back who was better, and I don't even remember how I answered it. I will now. I'm not a big believer in Kerry Carpenter's defense, but I think he is better than Kristen Stewart easily.
and it seems like it's like he makes enough plays on defense, especially like balls in the alley or whatever, that because I don't consider him particularly quick or fast. Not to say he's slow, but that's not his
Yeah,
tool.
just average at
Yeah,
best.
average at best. I don't consider his reactions to be elite or whatever,
I
but
would say
he
below average.
makes some plays that, like, again, like, surprise me because I don't think those tools are like the pluses in his bag. And
Yeah.
so do we attribute that to the randomness of baseball, or do we attribute that to this is a guy who's working hard and George Lombard's, doing his magic, just like Chris Fetter with the pitchers, Lombard's doing his
No,
thing.
I think he's improved. I really do. I don't think that means he's a plus defender or even a 50 grade defender, but I think he's gone from probably a liability to like, okay, you can play him there, and it's not going to be a complete train wreck. He's not going to be good. He's probably still going to make some mistakes, but you feel like you can put him out there. Um, so even though I feel like I play pretty close attention to defense and have a pretty good eye for it, but philosophically, I'm also like, bro, if a guy can hit, like I don't care that much about what he does on the field. I mean, I do care, and it does matter. We're about to talk about Torkelson. We can talk about that, but like, hey, you get some guys who can rake. Like you can live with Kerry Carpenter being a maybe a minus defender in the corner outfield if he's going to hit 30 bombs and hit 280 or above. Like that Dave Dombrowski has built teams like that many a time in his career, and that's what he's done with the Phillies, and they went to the World Series last year, and we saw him do it when he was GM of the Tigers. We had Miguel Cabrera playing third base at one point. You had Nick Castellanos. Nick was pretty bad in his days at third base, but I think once Nick went to the outfield, like it's not always pretty. It's not great. He doesn't grade out well, but when Nick's hitting, no one's really complaining about his defense.
So the question I would love, like, this would have to be an off the record conversation, but I would love for AJ to answer this honestly and then just kind of spew everything philosophically because I would just eat all that up. How many what's the over under on minus defenders are you comfortable having in the lineup on any given
Oh,
day?
yeah.
Be-
You think I haven't had these conversations, Kieran? What have I said about the future? There's a limit. There's a
There-
limit.
There's a limit
There is a
because,
limit for the manager.
unfortunately, Ozzie Smith ain't walking through that door. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? There's a promising amount of bats in this in the come up. I would say in the come up. It's not a lot of gloves that you're or even complete that are coming up, and not that we have to talk about it this much, but a lot of lefties too, which further kind of
Yeah, that's a real dilemma. I don't know how you sort that one out. I guess that's again my thing. Like, well, these guys better rake. If they can really rake, doesn't really matter your handedness. If you end up being a little weaker against left-handed pitching, you can live with it. And luckily, Riley Green can hit lefties. Kerry Carpenter's improved against lefties. Like, I don't think you have to be completely beholden to right, left, right, left. That's another thing AJ loves, of course. You kind of got too many lefties. It's a real concern. That and the defense are reasons like Scott Harris still has some work cut out for him. Like it's not all as cut and dry as like Jace Young's the second baseman, Cole Keith's the third baseman, Justin Malloy's not. Like there's there are going to be changes to eventually sort all of this out, probably in ways that we can't really even predict exactly right now.